Welcome to Chapter 9 of Assessing Impact. We will cover interpretive data. My name is Jeff Davis, and so far we have gone through evaluation of normative practices, professional learning programs evaluation overview, evaluating professional learning, assess evaluability, form evaluation questions, construct the evaluation framework, data collection, organize, analyze, and display data. These are all part of a three-step process that starts off with the planning phase, where you assess evaluability, formulate evaluation questions, and construct the evaluation framework. Then there's conducting phase. Collect data, organize, analyze, and display data, and that brings us to where we are today, interpret data. Later on, we should be covering the reporting phase, which is part of the report, disseminate, and use findings, and then the evaluation. Things to consider. As an evaluator, you must have considered, up to this point, you have to consider these 5 things. Who will be involved in the data interpretation process? What do these analyzed data mean? How do stakeholders and participants interpret these analyzed data? What do these analyzed data mean in terms of the program's future? And what recommendations can we, the evaluator, stakeholders, and participants, make about the program and its effects? Assessing Impact, Chapter 9, Interpret Data, Dealing with Rival Explanations. According to Patton in 2008, as cited by Killian, the rigors of interpretation and bringing data to bear, an explanation included dealing with rival explanations. So this means that accounting or discomforting cases in accounting for data irregularities part is testing the viability of an implementation. So basically the implementation that you're doing, is it worth what you're trying to do? Okay, so remember back to our statistics courses that we took with Dr. Capps. What outliers could adversely impact our data set for better or for worse? Okay, and then that interpretation means attaching significance to what we found, making sense of the findings, offering explanations, drawing conclusions, extrapolating that lesson, and then making inferences, and then you want to consider those meanings. Okay, so Patton says, numbers and qualitative data must be interpreted to have meaning. So what do the numbers tell you? Data are imperfect indicators or representatives of what the world is like. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. Statistics and qualitative data contain error. We know those errors are often based upon simple things like Likert scales, where we try to equate words to numbers, and we know we can't do that. And then look for interocular significance. Okay, so what does your eyes tell you? What do you see? Not what does the data tell you? So, closely understanding those quotes from Patton, we also want to consider what Donna Martins and Amy Wilson said in 2012. They advised that moving beyond the recommendation, ultimately actions require that additional knowledge beyond the evaluation data. So how are we going to take the interpretation and then turn that data into meaning? The evaluator, us, acts as a facilitator in data making meetings. So how are we going to run the meeting? We're not the ones who are going to make the decision, but we're just going to facilitate and hopefully guide these programs in the right direction. They can guide these stakeholders and participants through the data and what it means for the decision making and how it falls on them. So due to alternate interpretations, the more support for initial interpretation, making the findings more credible and harder to ignore. Our first question, considering what Martins and Wilson had to say, what additional knowledge is needed to move towards recommendations?